I can't see how their system can survive. I can't see how the virtual AI reality they want to create can survive. All this social crediting and all of this stuff, like this nightmare dystopia they're building. I honestly don't see how it can work, because people are too creative. The spark of humanity is too strong. The spark of freedom is too strong. I mean, the amount of people we're seeing push back now all around the world, I don't think that the human spirit will be squashed. I think the parasites that are running this world have moved too quickly, and I don't think they're going to get away with it. I mean, maybe some will move into that, but it's almost going to get to the point where the whole system's just going to collapse and implode in on itself, I think. I don't think the human spirit will allow itself to be squashed in this way. I don't think it's possible. I think we're far too creative. I mean, you've got to also take into account, I mean, what's already been done to us. If you look at our history and what's been taken from us, you know, the ancient history, Tartaria and things like this, and what we really had. I mean, sure, they've reduced us to a point of virtually slavery now, but this is the final nail. This is the final screw they want to put in, and I think at that moment the entire water barrel is just going to burst when that last nail goes in, and humanity is going to rise. I really think that's what's going to happen. I think it may work for them. They might get sucked into that black hole, but I think most of the people are going to choose freedom. I really do. I think that's what we're seeing in the world now, and they are forcing people to wake up. They're forcing people to adopt a little bit of self-responsibility, because it's got to the point, I mean, you know, everyone's going, well, things are terrible, someone should fix it, which is always the thing, you know, someone should fix it, not me, but someone should. And now the government's offering their fix, and they're going, well, hang on, I don't like this isn't a fix, you know, maybe I might have to take a little bit of responsibility for myself and actually get out there and say, hey, no, we're not going to do this. And that's what we're seeing, you know, and they're forcing, I mean, they're forcing people to putting their backs to the wall. I always said people will never see this, and they'll never stand up to themselves until it comes to their backyard and their backs are to the wall. And the government's doing that now. So I don't think that it's going to survive. Might come in a little bit, but I don't think it's going to survive. I think the human spirit is way too strong. You know, I'm seeing more and more people get it. I mean, you know, so many people know that it's a fraud. This is what happens when you take all the power away from people. You squash consciousness into a box so that people don't know, you know, what to do. And then you give little bits of power to certain people, and they sort of feel, oh, you know, they feel a little bit better about themselves, and they like to exercise that power. You know, we've got a system that will search for that little spark of sociopathy in everybody, and it will nurture that and cause that to grow, and then give that person a little bit of power over others so it grows a little bit more. And people enjoy it. It makes them feel important if they can dob in their neighbours, and, you know, they'll think that they're a good little person who's doing what the government said, and they're upholding the law, you know. So this is some of the problems that I see in people. Well, Tartaria was everywhere, and history is fabricated, completely fabricated, all of it. We used to think, well, you know, the Dark Ages, we don't know what that is. We realised that they invented the Dark Ages and just put that in there to push a whole bunch of stuff back in the past. And we realised, you know, some of history might be wrong, but no, it's all fabricated. The whole lot is fabricated. I've often referred to the Earth as a people farm. We're living in a people farm, and people don't really realise it. I think of each country as its own separate pen, and what they've done now at the end, this is harvest time, and they're stock taking. They've closed all their pens, they're doing their stock take, and they're harvesting all those souls that they can get. And it's a natural progression from what happened in Tartaria. I mean, this will be the complete loss of human consciousness if they are able to lead us in there and actually able to get away with this. It will be the end of humanity. But when you really look at what we had, I mean, it's incredibly inspiring to see the art and to see the ancient history that's right there in our own cities. If you just go out and look around your city with the right eyes, you know, nothing makes sense. None of our history makes sense at all when you look at the timeline we're given and the stories that we're given. All you've got to do is step back and think about it, and you realize that none of this is true, and this culture, all of this stuff was here, and we inherited it all. So they've had to bring it forward and move it forward because they're running scared, and they look terrified too, these politicians. When you see them being interviewed on TV, they know that the people know they're lying. And they're getting out there and they're trying to still play their parts, but you look at the body language of them, they look terrified. They look scared to death that people are actually waking up. And the faster they push this, the more they're waking people up. So it's all backfiring for them, I think, brother. People who have lost their power, and they give all their power away to others, and they believe that they are controlled. They believe they have owners, and they comply with wrong behavior. They're willing to step outside their moral compass to comply with legislation, which doesn't really mean anything. You know, we're supposed to have law, which is put there to protect us. It's put there to prevent the causation of harm and to provide remedy when harm is caused. And yet now the law itself has become the main source of harm, and people simply go along with it because it's the law. It's that belief itself. So ultimately, it's us. I mean, even when you look at all the rulers, and the maybe some people say, well, they're not human or whatever. They got reptilian souls or whatever. I mean, whatever, you know. But they look human, and they're just men and women that are out there doing these things, and we're just going along with it. You know, it's this need for power, this greed, this loss of everything it means to be human, the loss of free energy, the loss of the abundance that we're connected to all around us, which makes us believe we're in a state of scarcity, which makes us terrified. We've got to get more and more and more and more and more and be in control of everything so no one will hurt us. It's it's us, you know, it's us, it's all of us, you know. I mean, it's really hard to point the finger and say it's them, and that's what a lot of people want to do, you know. It's back to the same thing, but I'm not prepared to change anything in me and stop complying with wrong behavior and just do the right thing in all that I do, because if people did that, they would change the world in a day. If people stepped into their moral compass, refused to comply with anything which caused them to step outside their moral compass, we would literally change the world in a day. The whole system couldn't function if we didn't comply with wrong behavior. So if people want to know who they is, they've really just got to look in the mirror and look at the little smart device they're holding in their hand and realize what they're participating in. And if they were to stop doing that, then it would all go away. No stake in the outcome, brother. I face infinity without flinching. To me, it's all a wondrous experience. And the reason darkness exists is because people refuse to shine light on the darkness. Many people who believe they're in a state of high vibration actually have an inability to be able to process certain forms of light, because all information is light. It may be stuff that you perceive to be dark or negative, but it's simply information. And many people who sit there and say, I'm going to stay in a state of high vibration and keep my vibration high, I won't look at the darkness because that will bring me down. They're actually in a state of fear. You're in a state of fear of actually looking at that because of the way it will make them feel. So they're in exactly the opposite type of vibration that they think they are. We can heal the darkness by simply casting light into the darkness. If you don't know a problem exists, you can never heal that problem, and that problem will continue to persist because of your refusal to look at it. When all you have to do is cast light on it and the problem goes away. It's really that simple. You can't have any stake in the outcome, and you can't think, well, this is going to make me feel bad. It's just a way of healing the situation. You know, you've got to be aware of both polarities of reality. There's the ultimate good as far as you can get, and the most divine and magnificent good and joy and love that you could possibly feel, and there's the other side, and one cannot exist without the other, and the trick is to bring them all together. No stake in the outcome of any of this. You're only here for a breath. You're here to heal this reality. You're here to gather the experience that comes to you and take it with you when you leave the realm. You know, and if you refuse to heal the light, refuse to heal the darkness while you're here, refuse to ever look at the shadow, well, that's never been healed from yourself. We can heal the shadow, but we have to be aware the shadow is there, and we have to be prepared to look at the shadow. The shadow will flee before the light, but you've got to be prepared to put that fear down that you have of actually looking into the shadow to begin with. You know, there's a saying that if you look into the darkness, you will become the darkness, but that's not really true. If you're spiritually inspired, when you look into the darkness, what you will discover is the level of good within yourself. When you see these dark things, you become outraged, but it's an empowerment. It's an empowerment sort of an outrage, and you've simply got to look at the darkness and tell it to flee. And it does. It goes away. It will run before the light that you cast on it if you're prepared to look. But you've got to put that fear down in order to do that. You've got to cross that threshold. That's what a lot of the New Agers and a lot of these so-called spiritual gurus aren't prepared to do. They're all in this whole, where attention goes, energy flows, and I can't look at that because I'm creating it. No, you're actually creating it by refusing to look at it. You're allowing it to persist. by refusing to look at it. And the fact that you've got to be there and ignore all this stuff around you shows you that you're putting all this energy into something you could simply heal if you were to look at it. Then it wouldn't be there. You wouldn't have to ignore it. Willful ignorance is what creates this problem, what allows it to persist.